People have always tried to build bigger, better, and taller, from the Pyramids of Giza to the Burj Khalifa. But what if we built the craziest building ever, where everyone lived in just one building? Think about what the view would be like from the top of this building, or by looking at it from a long ways away. As you'll soon find out, this building took an incredible amount of engineering and creativity to build. But is it even possible to build such a big building? It seems crazy to build something that can house every single person. But believe it or not, this idea isn't that different from other buildings that have been suggested. Think about the Exceed 4000. In 1997, it was planned to build this 4,000-meter tall building in Tokyo. It would have had 800 floors and could have held up to 1 million people. So, at this size, this building could house 1 in 14 people in Tokyo. But the Tokyo Tower of Babel was an even more grand idea. This building was made to be 10 kilometers tall and would have been able to house about 30 million people. Imagine Mount Everest with the Burj Khalifa on top. That will give you an idea of how tall it is. This tower is so big that it could house twice as many people that live in Tokyo. You could easily fit all of Australia's people into that one building. But, as you might guess, building such a tall tower is not easy. At the time the plan was made, it was thought that the whole building would take about 150 years to finish. If the Tokyo Tower of Babel could fit 30 million people, we would need a building 260 times bigger to fit everyone on Earth. But before we start drawing up the plans for this mega skyscraper, let's look at the buildings we already have. If you can believe it, the building with the most people living in it is not in China, the United States, nor Dubai. Instead, it is in Switzerland. About 6,000 people live in Le Lannion, a town development in the town of Vernier, which is outside of Geneva. In this town, 1 in 6 people live in this one building. The Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, can hold up to 10,000 people at once. It is a mixed-use building with places to live, work, and play. We'll have to go much bigger and riskier if we want to build our mega skyscraper. If each person needs 50 square meters of living space and the ceiling is 3 meters high, we would need a building that is 800 times bigger than the Burj Khalifa. It's clear that this will be a very big building, so let's start with something a little smaller and try to fit New York City into one building. To fit the 8.4 million people who live in New York City right now, you'd have to build 1,680 stories high. This building would be 500 meters wide and 5,040 meters tall. We could add another 10% to this building for basic amenities, which would make it 5,544 meters high and make it a better place to live. How would it be to live in this building though? The views would be great, no doubt, but if you look out your balcony, it's just like looking out the window of an airplane. But could you even walk out on the balcony? As you go higher, the air becomes less dense, making it harder to breathe. Because of this, the people who lived on the upper floors would need extra oxygen all the time. Not only that, but the upper floors would also have to be permanently sealed to keep pressure from leaking out, just like the cabin of an airplane. This means that you can never open a window or walk out onto your balcony, which makes your balcony pretty useless. But there is one good thing about living so high up in the clouds. At this height, there are strong winds, so wind turbines could be used to gather energy and make electricity. The elevator is also a problem. Most of the time, these go about 3 kilometers per hour. If you live 3 kilometers above the ground, then it will take you an hour to get to the ground floor. Even if the Shanghai Tower had the world's fastest elevator, it would still take 15 minutes to get to the bottom. And, as anyone who lives in an apartment building probably already thinks, what if the elevator doesn't work? Or there's a fire in the building? Imagine if you had to walk 5 kilometers using only stairs. A building that high doesn't seem like it would be very useful. So maybe we won't build up, but instead, we'll build out. We could just make the building wider if we wanted to make it shorter. If we go all the way with this, we get a cube. All of New York City would have to fit into a cube-shaped building that was 1,115 meters wide and 1,115 meters high, with an extra 10% of floors for amenities. So this building would only be 35% taller than the Burj Khalifa, and would only take up a third of the space of Central Park if it were put there. Even so, it wouldn't be as easy as it seems. It would change the skyline, make it hard to fly, and even change the weather. And it would be very expensive as well. It cost $4.1 billion to build the Burj Khalifa. If we assume that something 850 times bigger costs 850 times as much, then the cube would cost more than $3.5 trillion. But this is based on prices in Dubai. It costs a lot more to build something in New York. So it would actually cost $5.4 trillion to build the New York cube. To give you an idea, that's about 25% of the whole United States GDP for 2021. Aside from that, it took 6 years to build the Burj Khalifa. Again, if we just assume that something 850 times bigger takes about 850 times as long to build, it would take 5,100 years to finish the New York cube. But that is obviously a very long time, and nobody knows what the world will be like by then. Even if the Egyptians had started building the New York cube when they were building the Pyramids of Giza, it would not be finished for another 500 years. Even though this building is bigger than anything we've built on Earth, it's not even close to what we'd need to fit everyone on Earth into one building. If we used the same footprint as our skyscraper in New York City, we would need to build a skyscraper with 1.7 million floors to fit all 7.9 billion people who are alive today. People on the middle floors of the world's skyscraper would be able to see the International Space Station fly by from their windows. You would be building into space, in a sense. By the elevator, going from the top to the bottom would take longer than flying from Vancouver to Miami, which takes 8 hours. But what about materials for building? It took 39,000 tons of steel to build the Burj Khalifa. The world's skyscraper, on the other hand, is about 800,000 times bigger than the Burj Khalifa. So, if we assume, again in a simplified way, that this building needs 800,000 times as much material than the Burj Khalifa, it's clear we don't have the resources and technology to build this building. So we'll have to look elsewhere for materials. The space elevator is one of the most ambitious building projects being planned right now. It will let people and things get to space without using rockets. Carbon nanotubes are being considered because they are much stronger and lighter than other materials. Even though this material still has a lot of problems, it could be the key to building higher into the sky, and eventually building the world's skyscraper. But a building this tall wouldn't work right now. So let's try again with a cube-shaped building. Using the same assumptions as before, a cube-shaped building that could house everyone in the world would have to be about 11 kilometers wide and tall, or about 945 New York cubes. Compared to the tower version, this is surprisingly not that big. The World Cube would be as tall as the Tokyo Tower of Babel. In terms of size, it could almost fit in New York's largest park, Pelham Bay Park. But how much would building it cost? If the prices for building this building are the same as for the Burj Khalifa, it will cost just over $3.3 quadrillion. If we wanted to build this in New York, it would cost $5.1 quadrillion, which is about 12 times the entire world's wealth. If we use the same reasoning that it took 6 years to build the Burj Khalifa, it would take 4.8 million years at the same rate. If the price wasn't already a problem, this is definitely a big one. Even if it only took 10 years, the world's population grows by 1% every year, would have to grow by 1% every year. In the end, it looks like it would be impossible to build this building. But that doesn't mean that this goal could never be reached. When the pyramids were being built in ancient Egypt, no one could have imagined that they would be dwarfed by something that was 6 times as tall. Did people think it would be possible to go to the moon 2,000 years ago? As long as people keep coming up with new ideas, changing and pushing the limits, anything can happen. At the moment, it's just a crazy thought, but maybe one day, maybe in a million years from now, we'll all live close to each other. What do you think of this suggestion? Do you think that we should try to build the tallest building in the world? Let us know in the comments. If you liked and enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more insightful videos, get notified by clicking the bell button below. From the high-end stories of today, this has been Modern Luxury. As always, we look forward to seeing you again in one of our videos. Thanks for watching.